Most people approach money completely backwards. Most people think money is really complicated when it's actually very simple. They try to save more before they fix their income. They invest before they've sorted their mindset. And they feel guilty about spending when actually spending well is a skill too. I found 4 books that solve each part of the money puzzle. And by the end of this video, you'll know which ones to read and why. And I'll give you the best insights from each one. If you want a list of the personal finance books that I recommend, I have a link in the description below. If you just go to my links, my Ben Abel personal finance books link will be very easy to find, and you can find them there. I actually only have 3 books right now because I moved from Spain to Ireland recently and I don't know where the other one is, but here they are. And I will talk through each one of them. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about a book that I really want to read that apparently is amazing. So let's get into it. First of all, I want to talk about a provocative book called The Millionaire Fastlane by DeMarco. And this book flipped my vision of money on its head. DeMarco says that the advice that we grew up with, which is to get a good job, save a little bit on the side, retire at 65, is what he calls a slow lane. Basically, once you have money, you're too old to enjoy it. He talks about not exchanging 40 years of your life miserable to get a few years of retirement of enjoying. Earn your money early, get an exit, and then enjoy the rest of your life and do whatever you want with the rest of your life. I really like this book because it opens your mind into how you can make money, how you can make more money in the short term, and then how you can get that to retire you early. So I guess this is kind of a FIRE book, what is it called? Financial Independence, Retire Early. I like it, but I do have some issues with it. So essentially there's 3 lanes. There's the sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane. And he's saying they're all bad except from the fast lane. And the fast lane is where you are investing your time, maybe for 5 to 10 years, build a business, have an exit of millions, and then you can live the rest of your life and enjoy it. I understand it. I love that. And I think that's what a lot of people in this world are striving for. And I think it gives some really good systems about how to do that. But I don't think we should look down on the slow lane completely, because I think a lot of people are in the sidewalk. The sidewalk is essentially working paycheck to paycheck, not really having any money. The slow lane, he calls it, you can still be a millionaire, but you'll be a millionaire when you're old. And this is something that I usually teach on this channel, which is investing money. The more you invest now, the more it compounds and the more money you have in the future. Typical examples, if it's a couple of hundred per month invested, you'll be a millionaire by the time you retire. I understand that's not the most ideal scenario, and I understand what he's saying. I do think this is a reasonable thing for most people. Not everybody wants to build a business. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Some people like the 9 to 5. Some people don't mind their jobs and they want to do that. I think the slow lane is good for most people. Most people that I know of, and maybe because I'm from a working class background in the north of the UK, but most people are on the sidewalk, and the sidewalk is bad because even when you're retired, you might struggle with money. All of this is to say, I love this book. It opens your mind to so many ways about making money. But I think, you also have to understand that this approach is not for everyone when it comes to finances, and not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone wants to build $1 million businesses, and that's fine. I do, but yeah, so it has some really good information in here. So it talks about how wealth comes from systems and not attaching your time to money. The fast lane is a business, a product, or an asset that generates money over time. So there's many different examples of this. I really like the idea of the 5 systems. So we have the rental systems. So this could be owning an Airbnb, something like that, which is what I do. It could be computer software systems. So this is, selling things like apps. Then you have content systems. This is people that do YouTube and TikTok shop and things like that, selling their content, maybe ebooks. Then you have distribution systems, which is kind of a structure or organization designed to move products to the masses. So this could be even things like Airbnb, right, that distributes different places. So the actual company Airbnb is kind of a distributor of different accommodations. Creating something like Airbnb would be a distribution system. And then you have the end human resources system, which is less passive, and I don't really like that one that much, so I'm not going to go into that. So it gives you some ideas of which systems you could use and how you would use them, which I really like. So I really, really recommend this book for anyone that wants to build a business, anyone that wants to make millions in the short term. This book is amazing, and as I said, it'll be linked down below. If you read only one book on earning money, it should be this one. Moving on to the art of spending money. So many of us avoid spending money, but we have to spend money. We want to enjoy our lives. And so much of how we spend money comes from our psychology. So this book, The Art of Spending Money by Morgan Housel, he also wrote the book, The Psychology of Money, if you're familiar with that one. This is very underrated, and it's probably very different to all the other books that you see in the personal finance space, because every other book is telling you to spend less. This is telling you some people might need to even spend more, and it's asking you, are you spending well? The idea is that most of us are spending on autopilot and we're not actually thinking about what we're spending. We buy things by default, not by choice. And that's the real problem, not the amount of what we're spending. So the 3 key points that I took from this video were: spending is a skill that almost nobody teaches. Learning to spend well, intentionally, on things that are actually genuinely going to improve your life is just as important as earning or saving. Number 2, most people's spending doesn't actually reflect their values. When you audit what you're spending versus what actually matters to you, the gap can be shocking. For example, maybe you spend so much money on eating out, but you really care about health. Maybe you're spending money on luxury things, but you deep down don't actually care what people think about you. Maybe you're spending a lot of money on cheap things, maybe from those kind of cheap websites, I'm not going to mention the names, but you don't agree with the values of how that is having an impact on the environment. And then number 3, the goal isn't frugality. There's so much content about being frugal online, and I low-key hate it because I think it's not reasonable for most people. But it's not frugality, it's alignment. Spend freely on what you love and cut back on things that you don't care about. That shift alone changes your whole thing with money. I love the 50-30-20 rule. I love that I can spend 30% of my net pay, whatever I pay myself, on absolutely whatever I want. I love that because it gives me so much freedom. And I make sure that in my budget, I have a budget planner in the description box below, by the way, so you can click through and get that. But the categories that I give myself for my fun money are aligned with what I care about. But most of my fun money goes on travel and experiences because that's what I care about over things. So again, the link of Spending Money is in the description below if you wanted to read that one. And that's the book that nobody talks about, but probably everyone needs. The third one is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. So I really like this one because I feel like it is end-to-end money management, and it's really in line with what I teach on this channel. So this is about everything from how to manage your money, how to budget, how much you should be saving, how much you should be investing, what you should be investing in, etc. All the other books are a bit more about mindset. This is an actual playbook of how to manage your money. There's no theory, there's no fluff. It's actual action points of what you should do with your money. I personally think if you're just getting started with personal finance, this is the book that you need to read because you can do it step by step and manage your money. And you don't need to pay loads of people, even though I have consultations, so maybe I shouldn't be saying this. If you don't want to spend money on that, I would just spend money on this book and manage your money from scratch using everything in this book because it is an amazing framework. So his 3 key points is 1, automate everything. Set up your account so the money moves itself. So, your bills and your rent gets paid automatically, your investments go out automatically. You pay yourself first, that's very important, and that money comes out. Bills, savings, investments before you can spend it. And then you remove willpower from the equation entirely. Then number 2 that I learned in this book is a priority order that most people ignore. So you want to get your employer match on your pension or your 401k in the US first because it's free money. You want to clear high interest debt, and then you want to fill your Roth IRA, tax advantaged accounts. If you're in Europe, then just normal investment in the stock market. Number 3, his point is index funds beat everything. If you've watched a lot of personal finance videos online, you're probably going to be so bored of this trope, but it's so true. Index funds beat everything. Easy diversification, low cost. You don't have to think that much and your money will grow for you over time. He basically says, don't try and pick stock. Don't try to time the market. It's not going to work. Time in the market over time in the market. So Ramit's book is going to be linked in the description again. And honestly, this is the book that I wish I had read 10 years ago. And then book 4, I don't have it with me. As I said, I just moved to Ireland from Spain. But this is Paul McKenna's I Can Make You Rich. And Paul McKenna is actually a psychologist. He writes psychology books about a lot of different topics. So this is specific. He's not a money-making expert, but he talks about the deep psychology around why people do what they do with money. And I found this fascinating. So this is good if you want more of a self-reflection when it comes to money. If you want to think about why you do things that you do with money, this is really interesting. And some of the things I felt like, wow, he's reading my mind. He's known for behavioral change in general, this author. It's basically about the beliefs that you've been carrying since childhood. So there's a reason that when you receive a big amount of money, you suddenly spend it because it's like subconsciously your brain wants to give that money away because it's not comfortable having all that money. things like that about how your thoughts are sabotaging your finances. So the 3 key points I learned from Paul in this book were: number 1, your money blueprint was set in childhood. As I said, things that you heard about money growing up, and money is the root of all evil, defines how you think about money and how you act with money. Number 2, mindset blocks can be why strategies fail. So you can have the system from Ramit, the drive from DeMarco, and you can still unconsciously self-sabotage if your identity doesn't match who you're trying to become. And then number 3, visualization actually works. So he walks you through exercises that sound a bit out there, but the science behind them is actually really solid. Your brain responds to imagined experiences in ways that shift real behavior. So honestly, this could be a good one to read first before all the others, because you're almost building the foundation of your mental state before you implement everything else. So again, the link will be in the description below. I also wanted to mention here, what do I want to read next? I'm really interested in the Alex Hormozi $100 million money models. I'll do a full breakdown when I'm done, but I've heard a lot about it, and I think it might be similar to MJ DeMarco's book, The Millionaire, Fastlane. Let's see. I think he goes deep on how businesses actually generate revenue, models and structures behind it. Maybe I already know this because I'm an accountant, but yeah, I'll let you know once I read that. So subscribe so that you can see that and see any other videos that I put out about saving, investing, budgeting, etc. So 4 books, 4 pillars: McKenna for your mindset, DeMarco to rethink how you earn, Ramit to build the system, the art of spending money to make sure the money you do have is actually going where it should. You don't have to read all 4, but if you're unsure where to start, ask yourself, is my problem how I think about money, earn it, how I manage it, or how I spend it? Start with the book that answers that. So all 4 links are in the description below. Drop a comment with which one you're actually going to read, if you've read any so far. I would love to hear from you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.